Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, when and wherever you are. I hope everyone is all right. I hope at least you have all that you need. Okay. Sometimes it's all we can hope for. And now, today I want to talk with you about the subject. First of all, I'm a bit of a history buff. Okay. I am a history nerd. I love history. I have always loved it. I'm the type of person that can waste his time in a museum, in a church, in some Roman ruins, okay, in all of that, okay, and I know a bit about it too, and I like the historic periods that I like to study, let's call it like it the most. One of it is Rome. I love all of the contrasts in Rome, from the great some of the greatest achievements in ancient Europe to the greatest acts of barbarism and stupidity. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to tell you is that I don't look at Rome with the Christian eye. Okay, I try to look at it from a point of view where I try not to have any kind of judgment over people. Because, if you are going to try to judge Rome from a Christian eye, you will end up making the same mistakes that a lot of historians did when they were a posteriori analyzing Rome and the reasons why it fell. Rome fell for a lot of factors, due to a lot of factors. Okay, economic, demographic, cultural, and in a sense, Rome, the empire fell. Okay, what remained in the east, and they always called themselves Roman right until they ended in 1453. I think that was when the Ottomans took Constantinople. They always considered themselves as Romans, even though we called it the Byzantine Empire. But right until the end, they always called themselves Romans. But as I was saying, maybe Rome, it really didn't end. The entity ended, but the idea and what it was, even the organization of the state, that never ended. Okay, it continued to exist in the Middle Ages. First of all, with Charlemagne. After that, with the Holy German Roman Empire, and it continued. Okay, and in a way, we have been trying to rebuild it ever since. There has been this collective idea of unity that ended, but it was never quite the unity that the historians always try to talk with us about. But moving forward, one of the greatest issues of Rome was when they had an emperor that was a lunatic or that was incompetent, and they had a lot of them. Luckily for them, at the same time they were having lunatics to rule, on and off, in came an emperor that stabilized everything and that took care of things, I suppose. You have emperors like, for example, Trajanus. Sorry if I don't say the British names, or the English language names, but sometimes I don't really recall the translation, and I know the names in Latin and in Portuguese. Okay, but you have, for example, Trajanus. Okay, that was an excellent emperor. You have, for example, Marcus Aurelius. You have a lot of them over the centuries, and these people they kept the empire more or less intact. Never intact, but more or less intact. This is the reason why the Roman Empire lasted as long as it lasted. Okay, but then you would have someone that was either incompetent to rule. Like, for example, the Emperor Commodus, that was the son of Marcus Aurelius. And I'm not talking about the movie, I'm talking about the real time emperor. Okay, he was a complete lunatic that ended up murdered, like a lot of them. And you have, for example, other emperors, like for example, Nero, that wasn't as bad as people paint him. Okay, the people liked him because he gave them culture, he gave them games, food, he took care of the people until he went a bit berserk too, and he had to be put down. And then you have the most odd case of them all, which is Caligula. Now, if you don't know this, Caligula was the son or grandson He was the grandson of Octavian and the son of Germanicus. And Germanicus was an excellent general, and he was very beloved by the legions. This is how Caligula got his name. Caligula means little boots in Latin, and that is the name that the legions gave him. Officially, I think he was Marcus Octavian or something like that. I don't recall, sorry. But Caligula is how he was known to us via history and all of that. And Caligula, he the timeline. Okay, let's see the timeline. You have Nero. Okay, Nero was the stepson of Octavian, the first emperor. Then comes Nero, that was his stepson, and he rose to power after him and his mother found a way to disgrace Octavian's daughter and to murder Germanicus. Okay, and this is how Nero comes into power. After Nero is offed because he went berserk too, enter Tiberius. And Tiberius was what you could call a person without any kind of humor. He suffered tremendously with headaches, and he was a stoic. His wife was constantly betraying him, and he just accepted it. And he fathered the sons and the daughters that his wife was having with other men. Let's say it like this. But then again, this also can be a bit a bit a bit um distorted by history. Okay, because most of the things that we have about the ancient Roman Empire, minus those direct accounts that we see in writers and in poets and in historians, is a bit shadowed by Christianity. Okay, they even altered some texts and all to do what they did to history. Okay, let's just say it like this. I don't want to talk about that this minute in this video. But then enter Tiberius, and Caligula. He pretty much lived as a voluntary hostage for his own well-being near Tiberius. He would constantly praise the little man in the emperor. In the words of a poet, he followed him around like a little dog, and he learned with Tiberius because Tiberius, he was a lot of things. He was brutal. He didn't have absolutely any kind of humor. I would have to say he sounded German because he had no humor. The man had no humor. Okay, and I can talk bad about the Germans. I'm part German too, and I know what I'm talking about. I sometimes have a weird sense of humor, but the man, he was like that. Okay, but he was competent. He kept the things flowing. He kept the money and entering in Rome. He kept the provinces at peace. He kept the generals happy. Okay, he kept things going. Until his latter years, when he discovered that the palace prefect, Tigellinus, he was going berserk and with personal revenges and all of that, and in my opinion, perhaps trying to reach out for power himself. So he returned to Rome. He took care of Tigellinus and his entire family. He put all things in order, and then he returned to Capri, where, again, according to the legend, he ended up his last years in in perversion. What is perversion? You tell me. I don't know. From a Roman perspective, what is perversion, and from a Christian, Abrahamic religions perspective, what is perversion? Okay, you tell me. But little old Caligula, he kept by Tiberius, and when Tiberius died, the legions acclaimed him as the new emperor. Okay, and there you go. And in the beginning, Caligula was look, he was never a very entrepreneurial emperor. Okay, he gave the people games. He lived a good life of being the owner of the world, so to speak. But he was more or less, for a lunatic, he was more or less balanced. Okay, people liked him. He made them laugh. But then he had a fever, and when he had that fever, he went completely berserk. In that moment, they should have just he could have felt off a window like all the opponents of Putin or something like that. But no, they kept him on. And then he became more and more and more deranged. He made himself be worshipped like a god. When his beloved sister, he was also incestuous, died, he he did something that would be the tipping point for everyone. Then that was when he simulated a marriage with a eunuch that looked like his sister. But he used to do things that were completely deranged. Like, for example, before he was completely mad, he made a point to prove to the Senate who who was the ruler. And the Senate by that time, even since the time of Octavian, they had kept their image but not their power. Basically, the Senate was and would be to the future like, for example, the city hall of Rome. It had no practical power. It was just an image. It was just a salary. They had no power. And in order to prove his superiority to them, he named his horse as vice emperor just to piss them off because everyone wanted to be the vice emperor. Because the vice emperor was, in practice, the the implementer of order. Okay, the emperor had fun and he ruled. And the vice emperor did all the work, but in return, he also received all the money and the power and the influence that comes with it. And they were interested in money and power. Okay, it's not that different from today. But then he was able to do incredible damage to the economy, to the reputation of Rome, to its image that had to be strong against the neighboring barbaric tribes that were evolving. Okay, some people don't know this, but when the barbarians, the Germanic barbarians, started to invade the empire, the Rome did not fall. Let's call it like this, solely because of the internal factors, like for example, a plague and economic problems, demographic problems, a lot of issues. It also fell because the Germanic were very well equipped with weapons that were then equivalent to those of the Romans. This is one of the reasons why they were able to be so successful. So a lot of people forget that. They were not simple barbarians, okay? They were simply different from culturally different from the Romans. And then they even had already incorporated a couple of Roman techniques, technology, what interested them into their own technology. But that's the subject for another video. But the point here that I want to make is this. He was able to do extraordinary harm to the empire because the institutions that should have controlled him did not work. They did not work. They complained, they talk a lot, but they did not work. And then when he started to murder influential people, when he did that joke with the eunuch, okay, when he started spending money like if there was no tomorrow, then they decided let's get rid of him. And one sunny day, Caligula was going to the games, and he got off in the. Let's just see, he did not see the show. And then after him entered Claudius. That was a bit of a dumbass, but that was a very intelligent emperor and a guy with a bit of state sense, with his issues too. But he was better than Caligula. But continue. Why am I talking about all of these historical figures in the Roman Empire and that? Because I want to make this point. Have you seen what Mr. Trump has been doing? The latest is threatening to jail uh, the governor of Illinois, I say. He's sending, without any kind of authorization, he's sending in troops into American cities. He's doing, he's stalking, his way of stalking, his ideas. They are getting more and more deranged and lunatic. And no one is doing anything about it. And while that is happening, well, the empire is crumbling. And now I wonder what will happen. Will he be terminated? And if he is, who will? In terminated, I mean moved out of power. Okay, I don't wish death on anyone. Okay, let me be clear about that. And then, if he's removed from power, who will succeed him? Will the institutions be able to carry on, or will it happen the same as it did with the Senate in Rome? Well, it was just pushed aside, let them keep their privileges and their money and their ceremonial, but no actual power. Because what we have been seeing, and if you haven't been seeing it, then you have not been seeing the same things that I am, is a president acting without any kind of consideration to the Senate and to the low and high house, call it whatever you want, and the institutions and the states themselves. He's been acting completely without any consideration for them. Those that support him get a carrot. Those that don't get the National Guard. I mean, civil unrest in Portland? I'm not American, and even I know that's bullshit. Now, what will follow? Is he, for example, deploying National Guard because he is not going to allow new elections. He's going to simply take over power. And I don't see a lot of people worried about this. I see a lot of people talking about it. Oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. But what I don't listen to is the institutions taking a stand and saying that this person is not suited for office. You are not doing bloody anything. And then I go into some sites, some video YouTube channels that I watch of Democrats doing this and Democrats doing that. But I see the government has shut down. I see that he's continued to deploy the troops. He had that little pep rally with the generals. Who is to, who is to tell me that he was not talking with some generals that will support him? And what does not tell me that, for example, it is J.D. Vance or some other character that is going to succeed him as, quote, emperor. And it worries me because I don't think you guys have history books. Because you are comparing America with 1933 Germany. But you should be comparing America with Rome. And I'm not even trying to compare what Rome was and what the United States is. I'm talking about the functioning of the state. In Germany, what you have was a republic with a parliament, a person that gets elected and then crashes the parliament until he gets more votes and he gets a majority by allying with the conservative right, with the conservatives, with the Christian conservatives and all of that. Okay, and he gets power, and then after the president dies, he snaps and he takes over the entire country, just like that, very quick. But here you have a different situation. You have a situation in which even your state organization is not that different. You have equivalent to a senate. You have states that you could call provinces and the province governors, and you have a president that acts a bit as the emperor in Rome. That was first the principes. Okay, and I don't see anyone worried about this. And I don't want to be an alarmist or whatever, but I want people to consider this, consider these parallelisms, these similarities between the two situations, and to consider it and to be worried about it. Because I would be worried about it. Hell, I'm worried about it. Okay? Because even though I'm not an American, I'm not in the Americas, I know if shit goes down there, we are going at least to soil our food. And we are going to have to clean our feet. I know that. Okay? But I would be worried. I would be worried and I would be asking these questions. Because unless unless your governors and the Democrats with a couple of Republicans, pardon me, that are already moving on from Trump, unless all of these people are able to salvage this situation and return to a situation of normalcy, I don't see a good ending to this. I really don't. And I think people should really think about this. You should really get a history book and read a bit. Because you see, Humans have a tendency to repeat themselves. We want to make ourselves very evolved, very high and mighty, but in fact, we all tend to organize ourselves in the same way. It differs according to our culture, the degree and the shape it takes. But when it comes to the bottom line, human cultures work exactly in the same way. Just look at it. If you look at a human culture, it's not that different from culture to culture. No, just like the elephants. When there is a problem, the females and the males they form a circle. The males stay in the outside, the females form another circle inside, and then in the middle they put the weaker members of the element, the cubs, and sometimes also the older elephants. Human beings are just like that. If you look at us, if you see human beings in an emergency situation, you will see we are all the same. The difference is our culture, and the difference is how our societies organize themselves. But in the bottom line, we are the same. And if I look at the human society today, even a human society like the American, they are ethnically diverse, just like Rome. They have a lot of power, just like Rome. They have an empire, just like Rome. Okay, I know a lot of people don't like to listen to this, but they have an empire, okay? And they are suffering from the same uh, diseases that Rome had. A lot of so-called nationalism, okay, that's class struggle. A lot of rich people in the top that want to get richer and that don't want to lose their money and their power and that pay off politicians. When Rome was in its decadence peak, there was even a very rich merchant from Rome that bought himself the title of emperor. Of course, he was quickly murdered by another suitor. Okay, but this is the degree of which of decadence that Rome reached. It then stabilized a bit to the end. Okay, and then it ended in the west and it continued in the east. But again, subject to another video. So I just wanted to make this video because it happened to me today. I was looking at a couple of videos of the usual madness from the United States, and I saw this, and I thought to myself, maybe there is something here. I don't know. You tell me. Well, thank you all for being patient with me, for listening in. Please leave me your opinion in the comment section, and I hope to catch you all in the next one. Okay? Stay safe.